Ich wundere eigentlich nicht darüber erzählen.
Live from the hippest spot online, you've arrived at the Pop Culture Juke Joint, the only weekly podcast you'll need for intelligent showbiz chats. Located just up the street from the Peach Pit and down that dark, damp alley behind Fonzie's Garage, you'll find former newsman and current hard-boiled crime writer Anthony Venutolo, chatting with guests about everything from old-school classics to new-school staples. So head up to the bar, grab a drink, and settle in here at the Pop Culture Juke Joint. Now, your host, Anthony Venutolo.
Welcome to another episode of the Pop Culture Juke Joint, where each week we delve into a wide variety of topics, including movies, TV, books, music, comic books, you name it. This week, Jack Lugo and I have a great conversation about spring television and basically what that's become in the past couple of years. It used to be fall TV was the time, for great programming. But now it seems like there's an almost constant barrage of great material coming out of streaming services, second-tier cable networks, marquee networks like HBO, and the networks themselves. So we chat about some great shows that may or may not be on your radar. So you know what? Sit back, relax, grab a shot, enter the Juke Joint. Okay, Jack, how are you?
I'm all right, Anthony. How are you?
I'm all right. Actually, no, I'm not all right, Jack. I'm a little stressed these days.
And why is that?
Well, in addition to life and all that other stuff like bills and the state of our union, I'm getting overwhelmed by the depth of the shows on my DVR that I have to watch that I have not gotten to at all.
Yeah, I feel the same way. I mean, the DVR and also the streaming shows, Netflix, and I'm now a Hulu subscriber, so I have that to look forward to as well. It's become there's a lot in our queues. Let's put it that way.
It used to be, all right, you have the kickoff of the fall, and then if you're lucky in the middle of the year, maybe by January, February, an HBO show would come along that you'd be into, the occasional AMC show, of yesteryear like Mad Men. But now, it's this constant barrage, and I'm not complaining, mind you, of shows that are all like must-see TV all of a sudden, and they're marquee shows, and they all sound great, and you have to make mental notes because you know what you're gonna. I'm sure I made a list here of all the shows I'm currently watching, and I guarantee you, Jack, that I forgot at least one or two. But and I'm sure, and you watch way more than I do. So,
yeah, I'm losing track myself. I was going to make a list, and then other things got in the way, and there's just. It's just way. I mean, I'm not complaining either. Don't get me wrong, but usually, especially for this time of year, the spring season, where normally your regular fall shows start to wind down. They're heading towards their season finales and so forth, and then you have usually a couple mid-season replacements, and a few shows here and there that might start up around this time. But now it's just I can't keep track of all the shows I want to watch that are either premiering this month or next month.
Yeah, I mean, I think for me, this is at least the third or fourth year where I'm actually consistently looking forward to the spring shows. Consistently. It's getting to the point where I'm almost dreading the fall season because for me, I'm not really turned on by conventional network television. And I know you're a little more forgiving than I am. I don't know why that is, but I'm just kind of sour on network shows these days. You know,
I had to let a few of those shows go by the wayside. I mean, my wife keeps up with them and she tells me what's going on, but yeah, it's just become too much. Like I used to follow the Blacklist very closely. Now I'm a whole bunch of episodes behind, and they also did a spinoff. And there's so many other things I want to see that it's just too much to keep up with.
It's getting quite overwhelming. All right, so let's briefly talk about a couple of the shows that, you know, we want to let people know that if they're not watching, they probably should start watching. I know I'm a little proud because I turned you on to, I think, Hap Leonard, right?
Yeah, honestly, I think Hap Leonard is, and I say this without hyperbole, the best show on TV right now. Unfortunately, it's only 6 episodes, so it's you know, for the 6 weeks that prior to all these shows coming in, the new shows that are premiering now, the last 6 weeks have been incredible following this show. I mean, I caught on. The season 1 is on Netflix, so I watched that first, and then when I finished watching that, season 2 had just started, so I kind of was able to follow season 2 as it was airing. It's on the Sundance TV channel, which is not available to a lot of people, and I didn't even know myself that I had it because I looked through my guide and I didn't see Sundance TV the first time I checked, and then when I searched for the show, you know, just a manual search, it showed up. But it is. I mean, I'm glad I found it. I'm glad you turned me on to that because honestly, I mean, it's a Southern noir, 2 characters that are best friends since childhood. There is a traumatic past that they both share together, and James Purfoy plays sort of a guy who's kind of down on his luck. He's a laborer, kind of a white collar guy, and Michael K. Williams, who we followed in Boardwalk Empire, and a lot of people know him from The Wire. He plays a gay Vietnam veteran. And the friendship, the bond that they have together, the dynamic between those 2 characters, just incredible to follow. And the stories, the crime stories. If you're, I know you're a huge fan of noir. If you're a noir fan, you're gonna love this show. Yeah, I mean, the thing that I love about the show is that they're kind of an unlikely pair. They're an unlikely pair for the time that it's being set in. I think for the setting itself. And they have great chemistry, James Purfoy and Michael K. Williams. Especially Michael K. Williams knocks it out of the park in everything he does, B in every episode. I mean, there isn't a role that I haven't liked this guy in, and I mean, the Night of that was another great role for him too.
You know, without a doubt, and I'm kind of bummed that the show is only 6 episodes.
Yeah, same here. I think, I mean, I tweeted some of the creators of the show. It's like, I hope if it does get renewed, which there is no word yet if it is or not, I hope they could expand it to 8 or 10 episodes because they could easily do that. It's based on a series of books, a series of novels by Joe Lansdale, I believe the author is.
Yeah, Joe Lansdale.
And each season has followed the book, and it's gone pretty much chronologically. So the first season, the first 2 seasons, they take place in the late 80s. And the first season, they're basically, they get caught up with a cult of like hippies who want to change the world, except that they're in league with a psychopath played by Jimmy Simpson, who we remember from Westworld, who played the young man in black. And he was incredible in that role. And that was a very, I mean, that was a great season to follow. Lots of action, very suspenseful, unpredictable too. Like I didn't know where it was going to go. And then this season is very different. Michael K. Williams' character Leonard, his uncle, has passed away, and he's living in his house, and they find the remains of a dead boy underneath the floorboards, I believe, and they're trying to find out how those remains got there. And of course, the police suspect that the uncle was the child murderer, and both Hap and Leonard set out to discover the solution behind the mystery, and they run into a series of very not so great nefarious characters, including Brian Denny, who's great in the show.
He's absolutely great. Talk about the tone a little bit, because you'll have one very tender scene, and then the next it'll be a little comedic. I mean, I think the tone doesn't turn me off, and I can't imagine it turning anyone else off. But it's an interesting tone, right? Because of the very nature of their own relationship, the way they joke with one another at the weirdest times, right?
Yeah, I mean, it's rooted in kind of like the buddy cop, even though they're not cops, tradition. But obviously, they're kind of wannabe detectives. So they have a very they have this childhood bond. So they're free to kind of they spar with each other and they knock each other out in some scenes, and they insult each other and stuff. But it's sort of like the kind of things that you might imagine best friends who grew up in their circumstances might become, the dynamic that might become that might happen between the two of them. It's a great show to follow. I mean, anyone who hasn't come across it yet, definitely season 1's on Netflix. Definitely watch that, and then I'm pretty sure the season finale is actually tonight. And it's only 6 episodes per season, so it's very easy to just kind of. I mean, I was addicted. I watched like 3 episodes a night when I first got into it.
Yeah, I knew you would love it. I knew it was just going to be a matter of when you'd be able to get around to watching it. But I don't know anyone else really that watches it. I mean, a couple of my Facebook friends, they know what it is and they watch it. But the good thing is that it's on Sundance, so maybe Sundance will have a little more patience with a show like this, where a conventional channel or cable channel, may just probably move on. But real quick, let's jump to another show that I know you and I spoke about either today or yesterday. But I was at my aunt's house the other night and I watched The Son. I watched the 2-hour season premiere. I think it was either, I don't know if it was 1 long episode or 2 episodes joined.
It's 2 episodes joined, but I think when they premiered, they set it up as part 1 and part 2.
Yeah. Now I kind of knew the tone of how this would be. Sweeping, epic, sweeping family drama. Takes place in the early 1900s, the dawn of the Industrial Revolution, heavy flashbacks, and a commanding Pierce Brosnan. I mean, an absolutely, for me, stellar Pierce Brosnan. I think this guy's getting better as he gets older. I'm sorry. What do you think?
Yeah, he's incredible in this role. Actually, the role was supposed to go to Sam Neill, and Sam Neill bowed out for personal reasons. Mm-hmm. And then Pierce Brosnan got the role. It's the last thing you would expect him to play. He's an Irishman. He used to be James Bond. Right. Not every. For those who don't know me, I'm a huge James Bond fanatic. I manage a James Bond blog for a podcast. I didn't know what to expect from this show. And it's a very strong performance from him, and it hasn't gotten the raves that you would expect it to get, because I think a lot of people expect every show to be esoteric and groundbreaking, mm-hmm. And that's not what this is. I mean, that's not a put down. This is more, at least the format structurally, it's more traditional. You have your flashbacks, you have the current present day, character, and he's a patriarch, and you have a family drama, And then, it harkens back to his childhood and the traumatic experiences he went through. He was kidnapped by the Comanche, and it's sort of a character building thing as the show goes along. You see what that experience led to, and obviously we're very early in the show, so we don't know quite exactly everything that will unfold there. But yeah, it's a show that I highly recommend anyone who likes a decent Western. You can't really go wrong with it.
Yeah, and I will say, I mean, there were a lot of moments in those first 2 episodes on the season premiere that were really kind of hard to watch and not brutal or graphic, but just uncomfortable in the violent nature of where they were in the landscape of the country and the history, right?
Yeah, it was. I mean, especially that opening. The opening takes place in his childhood. He's maybe an early teenager, 13, 14 years old.
Right.
It takes place in 1849. They're sort of out there in the frontier in a isolated kind of ranch cabin, and they're attacked by a group of Comanches, and it sets up kind of like a moral. It's sort of a moral tale because the brother kind of blames him for what happened because obviously when they were first attacked, he went for the gun and they were outnumbered. There's no way they were he was going to be able to shoot their way out of the situation that they were in. But he as soon as they broke through the door, he shot, and the brother sort of believed. I think it would have happened anyway, but the brother sort of believes that what happened to his family was a result of that. And then we see sort of a morality play later on in the adult portion with Pierce Brosnan. He's sort of more ruthless and very pragmatic, whereas I think the younger son, his name's Pete, he has more of a conscience. He wants to sort of do the right thing, and even treat people who may be your rivals sort of fairly, whereas Pierce Brosnan doesn't want any of that. He's kind of a brutal kind of worldview.
Right. The thing that I like and that I have confidence in is the fact that this show is on AMC. And for anyone that knows, I mean, AMC will not shy away from a historical drama. I mean, they've had Hell on Wheels about the construction of the Transcontinental Railroad, I believe, or one of the railroads.
Yeah.
They have Turn, the story of, early spies during the American Revolution, which I have to admit looks more boring than watching dirt get wet. I mean, for real. But they're sticking with these shows. I mean, I think Hell on Wheels finished its last season, wrapped up recently. Turn, I think, is in its final season. So they're letting these stories play out. It doesn't look like they're chasing ratings when it comes to these historical dramas. They'll put them on a night where it may not be a marquee night, like a Sunday night, for example. I mean,
I think it's on a Saturday night.
It's on a Saturday night, and that's when Hell on Wheels was on, I believe. And Turn is on a Tuesday or something like that. They stick with shows, these smaller, more. I don't want to call it a quiet drama, but a second-tier drama. I mean, it's not Walking Dead, it's not Mad Men, it's not Breaking Bad, it's not Better Call Saul. So they can take risks on shows that may not bring the heat initially. I know they're
this one was heavily advertised. Like, I commute to New York City, every day for work, and I saw, on the sides of buses, on the subway, ads for this show. So they are promoting it very heavily.
Yeah, I think if you build it, they will come, provided that the show is entertaining enough. Now, I know it has been not exactly well received by some critics, but personally, I don't know why. I mean, I thought it was pretty entertaining. I still have an episode to go.
Yeah, I watched the latest episode today, actually, and I think what's going on with the critics is, I think they're so used to every show being, this ambitious, groundbreaking, formula-breaking show. They're used to all those shows doing that, being so innovative that when it comes to something that's more traditional, they sort of frown upon it and look down on it, kind of turn up their noses.
Jack, I'm going to go out on a limb here. So I've known a couple TV critics in my life, as you know.
Yeah.
Being a critic, I'm not going to say is a hard job. I mean, every job in and of itself is hard to a certain extent. But, what I will say is that there's so much, and this harkens back to what we were saying at the top of the show, that there's so much out there. It's really hard for a critic to really look at something now and just kind of enjoy it first. Try to enjoy it. And I think most critics get overwhelmed with the sheer volume of content that's out there. And like you said, if it doesn't grab them by the nuts in the first, half hour or the first episode, they're done. They're down on the show. They will never return to watching that show, and they give it a lukewarm review. And, people read it and they're kind of turned off. So, I say watch the show. If you liked a good Western yarn, a good sweeping family historical epic, watch The Son. That is my endorsement from me to you. And I'm sure Jack agrees.
I totally agree with you there. Definitely a show to watch.
Moving on. Another show that I think kind of just fell onto our radar, I watched it a couple weeks ago, and I told you about it, is IFC'S Brockmire.
Yes.
Take it away.
I've only watched the pilot so far. I know that there are about 3 or 4 episodes, and actually, I think episode 4 premieres tonight too, along with the other shows that are on tonight. So I was very impressed with the pilot. I definitely plan to watch the other episodes that have come out and catch up with it. But like you said, it's just so much that there's a lot there. But as a baseball fan. There've been other baseball-related shows. Obviously, there was, Eastbound and Down. What was that show?
Eastbound and Down.
Yes, and then there was The Pitch. But this one I like. I mean, everyone kind of enjoys the broadcast side of things when you watch the game. And there have been other movies that kind of play on it. The Bob Uecker character in the Major League films, and this guy, obviously, he's sort of shunned, and he has this past where he had this big. I wouldn't call it's beyond a gaffe, but it's basically
meltdown. I think is the word I would use.
Yeah, exactly. Huge meltdown after he discovers his wife is cheating on him. This was 10 years ago in 2007, and then now current day in 2017, his career is down in the dumps, and he accepts a position as a broadcaster for a very kind of down and out minor league organization, and I think what's there is the comedy, but I think what connected me to it is the baseball side of the show. You have the owner, give this they have this dialogue about Willie Stargell and how the owner, kind of found her love of baseball through, her dad and Willie Stargell. And then you have this sort of, you could see that there's a genuine love of the game there. Whereas I think other films about, trying to play up like a comedy story from a baseball sports perspective, they play up the comedy. This one, obviously the comedy's there, but there's also a love of the game there.
Yeah, let's just say right off the bat too that Brockmire is played by Hank Azaria, the great Hank Azaria, and the owner of the team of the Morristown Frackers, I should say, is the always lovely Amanda Peet, who was last seen on the HBO dramedy Together. She was great in that too.
Okay, I didn't see that.
Yeah, that was that's a whole nother show. But the thing I like about Brockmire is that, for me, I'm a casual baseball fan, but this really feels like a fish out of water story in the sense that after he had his meltdown, or I should say 2 meltdowns, he kind of falls off the planet. He goes to the other side of the world. He's calling cockfights. He's drinking everything in sight. He's snorting everything in sight. And he comes back, and the world is different. The world has changed. He hasn't been gone that long, or 10 years or so, but the world has changed. And, when he sees that his fame or his infamy now has been almost legendary in social media and on YouTube, and the lexicon and slang of the day, it's kind of like he just doesn't get it. And
he's a bit out of touch.
He's a bit out of touch, but like in a sweet way.
He's not too sweet. I mean, he's definitely, he's likable, but he definitely has a dark side to him.
Well, yes, I don't mean sweet like a puppy, but almost like an innocent, like he just doesn't understand anything. And to that end, I think that the show feels very nostalgic. And you were talking about the love of baseball, but we all grew up, watching baseball on TV, obviously on network TV, no less. And, we saw all these broadcasters who spoke like this, and they're very proper. And, Jim Brockmire is a proper broadcaster. He's got this great booming voice that he speaks in all of the time. And it sounds like it could be annoying, but it's not. It's actually quite funny, and it grows on you. This started out as a skit on Funny or Die, right? Yeah. I don't remember. I'm pretty sure I might have seen the skit, but I don't remember it that well. I listened to Hank Azaria. I think it was must have been right before the show premiered on Howard Stern, and he was basically talking about how it was a very well received skit on Funny or Die. And either AMC approached him, or he was shopping the idea around, and they jumped on it. And I thank God they did, because Brockmire is a really funny show. And I predict if he doesn't win an Emmy for Best Comedy Actor, Hank Azaria is definitely going to be nominated next year.
Yeah, it's hard to say anyone's going to win anything when it comes, because there are just so many shows and so many contenders. But I could definitely see him being nominated. I mean, it's not a show like a Modern Family that's going to catch on the way that show did. But it's a show that not just sports, a casual sports fan might get into, and obviously the hardcore sports fans as well. So I'm hoping it does. I mean, I think it has been renewed already for a second season, so that's good.
I mean, without a doubt, if this show ever landed on HBO, everyone would be watching the show by the third episode. It would be the next buzziest show. But hopefully, IFC is another channel that stays with shows. And thank God. I watched either four or five seasons of Marin. And I don't know anybody who watched Marin. Great podcast, but I don't know anyone who actually watched Marin except for me. So it's good that these shows are popping up on stations, cable channels that are actually giving them a chance to breathe a little bit. I know you're watching some other shows. We won't go into super detail, because I know we're going to wrap this up fairly soon. But you were telling me today about. Well, first of all, before we get into that, and I'm sure we'll have another discussion about this, but Fargo is another show that's debuting its third season tonight.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to that very much, yes.
Without a doubt. I mean, Fargo is, a tremendous show. You don't necessarily have had to have seen the movie to enjoy these shows, but tone-wise,
it captures it perfectly.
Exactly. I mean, the tone and the feel and the pacing and the quirkiness and the oddness, and it just I don't know how they hit this out of the park.
And if you're a Coen Brothers fan, there are references to other movies too. It's just incredible. I mean, the amount of the talent that went into this show. I followed the first season very closely, and for some reason I didn't watch the second season when it aired. It just sort of slipped past, and that was one of my main motivations for signing on to Hulu, because they have the rights to the season 2, and I wanted wanted to watch season 2, even though I know the seasons are not connected.
Right.
You don't have to watch them in order in order to enjoy the next one. But I wanted to see season 2 because I knew I was missing out on a great show.
Did you catch the Native American hitman who was in the second season of Fargo?
Yes, Hansi. He's in The Son.
He's in The Son. I thought that was him, right? That is him.
Yeah.
Okay, good.
Yeah, I forgot the actor's name, but yeah, it's the same actor who's in The Son. He's done other things too that we might have both come across or just maybe not remember.
I love that guy. All right, so you were telling me briefly about I Love Dick on Amazon Prime.
Yes,
right?
that was one of the pilot season shows where they have some pilots that you can vote on, and it actually won the voting. And it's based on a book by Chris Kraus, and it's sort of like a biographical fiction. And it's been the book has been described as sort of a feminist novel. I'm not sure how true that is, but it's the story is it's about a couple who relocates to Marfa from New York, Marfa, Texas. A lot of these shows take place in Texas,
right?
And this couple goes to this seminar. They want to meet this guy who's sort of like some kind of guru, and it's Dick. Is played by Kevin Bacon, and they have this sort of very intriguing. Obsession. Well, she develops an obsession with him, and then the husband sort of follows because they're struggling with their sex life, and they've been having marital problems, and this obsession with the Kevin Bacon character Dick sort of helps improve their sex life, and so she writes him a series of letters, and they all start off with "Dear Dick," and some of them are very graphic, very arousing, as you might imagine, and and it sort of goes from there. It's basically a show about obsession, being obsessed with someone for maybe not so great reasons, purely lust, in some cases. But it's definitely a show worth following. The pilot is the only thing available right now, but I believe the rest of the series comes out May 12th. For Amazon. All
right. Well, we'll let people watch that. I'm going to tell you that I'm a little behind on The Leftovers. The third and final season premiere came on Sunday night. I didn't get a chance to watch it yet. I do understand that this is a show that you're interested in perhaps diving into. This is a show that's sort of gone by the wayside for me as well. Yeah, but I will predict that you will love this show. That's just we have the HBO pedigree working here, so I'm gonna let you hop on that before maybe we chat about The Leftovers, because I think that's a whole nother discussion that can easily go over an hour. So with that, I think we'll leave this episode of the Pop Culture Juke Joint where it's at. We'll talk about this renaissance of TV, perhaps in another episode or two. We'll let people catch up to these shows, and hopefully we'll chat about some more shows in a couple weeks. What do you think? Yeah, that sounds good. All right, Jack. As always, it has been a pleasure. You know your stuff. Where can people find you on Twitter? At Jack Lugo 1. At Jack Lugo 1. Awesome. And, if there's ever another podcast that you're going to be on, let us know, man. We'll plug that a little bit, I do some work for a podcast called James Brown Radio. I'm always, around, doing stuff. So. We will keep everyone updated. And as always, Jack, it has been a pleasure. I will talk to you soon. Okay, great. Talk to you soon. Thanks, Take care. Bye-bye.
Enjoyed this episode of the Pop Culture Juke Joint? Then don't forget to tip the barkeep by subscribing and reviewing us on iTunes and Stitcher. Also, for some sizzling noir tales, head on over to Amazon to check out Anthony's hard-boiled fiction, available in print, digital, and audiobook formats. On social media, follow Anthony on Twitter at Anthony Venutolo or like his page on Facebook. For everything else, please visit his webpage at www.anthonyvenutolo.com. We'll see you next week.